toxic positivity. And I understand where people are coming from with that attitude of, oh, we can't be always go happy-go-lucky. It's not always going to work out. And I appreciate that too, because we've all seen those kind of situations as well. But you also don't want to come to it with the opposite and also ineffective approach, which is, oh, it can't work out. There's no way it's going to happen. In my life, I've been blessed with having so many different times where my willingness to give it a shot, you never know. And, when I put together the group of folks who we bought the Philadelphia Inquirer, Philadelphia Daily News, and Inquirer.com, and one of the most feared groups of that, because they had the worst relationships, were the Teamsters, because they're producing the newspapers, and we're producing not just the Inquirer Daily News, we're the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal for the entire Mid-Atlantic region. And then you have to get it out to various retail locations and distribution warehouses. And those were the most feared and the worst relationships. So what I did is I went and met with the head of the Teamsters when it was just a possibility we were putting together. And because I said, I want to come in and meet you because you play such a critical role. And I remember meeting with him, and he was willing to meet, but arms crossed, and a very strong, very effective person, too, in terms of leading his people. And to understand, too, part of it is understand what his job is, what he has to do, and at the same time understand to have a conversation, treat people decently. So we sat down, and we had a nice long meeting, and arms were crossed, and very skeptical because he had had a publicly traded company, had owned him for years before that. I could tell, though, we were starting to make some progress. And again, by listening, the one thing that happened is there was one particular driver who had a very difficult situation. And again, I had about 3,800 employees, so it was a large organization, almost a dozen unions, I guess 11 unions. So anyway, there was one particular person who I had met, and he was a very nice person, and he wasn't like the top person in the Teamsters, but he was one of the leaders, and he had a health issue. And I went and visited him unannounced, and I had met him before, and we had a nice 20-minute conversation. And when he got out of the hospital, called him up, and I said, now that you're feeling better, you and your wife and your two kids, why don't you go to the Phillies game and take my tickets? Not the company's tickets, my own personal tickets I gave him. And I didn't mean anything by that other than kindness. And I've heard for years afterwards that was shared by so many people, that nobody had ever done that before, that nobody had ever treated somebody just like a human being, like rather than, a cartoon version of opposition on the other side. And I still meet with the head of the Teamsters several times a year for lunch. We've become good friends. He fought for his people. He did really well for them. But our last year, frankly, we were going through all kinds of challenges in '09 and in that period, and we had negotiated a contract with the Teamsters, and that last year they were supposed to get an 8% pay increase. But I had built the relationship with all of the Teamsters by showing up at night when they were actually producing the papers and just talking to people and treating people like humans, that they voted 296 to 8 to decline an 8% pay increase. And the head of the Teamsters has joked to me several times, I kept wondering who those 8 people were who didn't vote the way we wanted. I mean, it's unheard of, and I don't think that's an easy thing to get. I got it, though, because for 4 years of building a relationship and understanding where people were coming from, I mean, you're running a business, but be kind.